All right, authors. I was rereading my first middle, and I like to edit along the way. So I noticed that I had a spelling error. So I'm going to go back and do some very quick edits to my middle. I know that we're going to go back at the end of the piece and do some more editing. So these are just little edits that I notice along the way, and you can do the same thing. So I wanted that to say giant. My cursor is giving a little trouble on this computer. A giant ball of fire in the sky. And then also is A-L-S-O. So I'm just going to go back and make those quick little edits. A-L-S-O. Just so that I'm making sure that it's making sense and looking right as I go. Now I'm ready for my second middle. So I'm going to start a new paragraph, and I'm going to indent or push it in a little bit to start my first sentence, my teaching sentence that's going to teach my reader what this second middle is all about, which is the Park of Zion. So I went back and I read my plan, and I reread my whole plan, and I especially focused on the second middle to make sure I knew those key words that I wanted to include and those key ideas that I wanted to include from when I had been brainstorming and planning. So now I'm ready to write those sentences. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to try to think of, okay, I want to transition my reader from thinking about Grand Canyon. I'm going to transition my reader to my second idea. So kind of letting my reader know that I'm changing ideas. So I'm going to say, as amazing as it was to traverse, I'm using that strong, vivid verb. Instead of just saying walk, I'm going to say traverse. As amazing as it was to traverse along the Grand Canyon, I'm using that specific noun again, capital at the beginning of each of those words, comma. So now I have my opener phrase, and now a comma for the rest of the sentence, giving good sentence variety. It was even more beautiful at, and here comes another strong noun with the capitals at the beginning. Could have just said the next park, but I'm going to say exactly which park it is. Zion National Park. So now my reader knows that I am going to be writing this whole paragraph focusing on Zion National Park. I remember I wanted to talk about the buses, so I'm going to use an onomatopoeia here to kind of make it exciting. A sound word, chug, chug. I was going to say traveled, but we rode in large buses to each waterfall. And I kind of want to say a describing word, an adjective, to talk about what type of waterfalls I thought they were. So to each spectacular waterfall. Now you really know how I feel about those waterfalls because I use that adjective. All right. They were breathtaking. So I'm going to tell you a little bit how I felt about it. They were breathtaking. So it took our breath away. Breathtaking. They were breathtaking! Exclamation point for some sentence variety. Water was gushing. I could have just said dripping, falling, coming down, but I'm going to use that vivid verb of gushing to let you really know specifically how much the water was falling. It was gushing. Water was gushing down the side of the mountain. I'm going to say the steep mountain because these mountains were so steep. Man, I remember looking up so high and maybe thinking like you couldn't even see the tippy tops of those mountains. So I want to include that word steep. The side of the steep mountains. All right. Now I want to include just another thought about how beautiful those were. So I'm going to just kind of elaborate on the waterfall because right now you just know it's gushing, but what I thought was spectacular about it is the way that they sparkled. So I'm going to add a sentence about that. So the water sparkled. Isn't that amazing that water can sparkle? And seemed to drop down forever. Okay, and here comes the next part, because that was really nice, but then it changes, because the next part is when Rayleigh got scared because we were so high up the mountain and they have these huge birds called condors. So I'm going to say, but then, so I'm letting my reader know that things changed, but then the mood changed. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and continue writing, and I'm going to write my next sentences talking about how Rayleigh was terrified of the condor, and then I'm going to wrap up my sentence, my paragraph, with that last sentence of letting my reader know that everything was okay at the end and we enjoyed the rest of our trip at the park. So notice that I started with my teaching sentence to teach my reader what it was all about. Then I added sentences from the ideas I had in the middle. I had more than 4, but we want to have at least 4. We kind of want to wrap it up at the end of that paragraph as well, and don't leave our reader kind of hanging at the end of the paragraph. So your last sentence could kind of tell maybe about the end of that part of the trip. And then we'll do our conclusion tomorrow. Great job, friends. Can't wait to read them.